Today we're going to make some Demi Glace. There are two parts to Demi Glace, veal stock and Espagnole. And we need to make the Espagnole before we make the Demi Glace. Now, Espagnole is sort of like beef gravy. Right? Demi Glace is a beef gravy on steroids. Espagnole is a beef gravy that's been working out. Beef gravy is just like, your regular beef gravy. All right, so to get to that point, we're going to use veal stock. I'm using veal and beef interchangeably here. In fact, I'm going to make this with veal stock, but you can make it with anything. If you want to do this with chicken, you want to do this with fish, you can do that. But traditionally and classically, it's made with a brown veal stock. Think back to the beginning of the year, we made a roasted bone stock. We used beef bones for that stock. For this particular stock, I used veal bones. Same process. Brown the bones, put them in the water with some caramelized mirepoix, let it cook for 6 to 8 hours, pull it out, cool it down. We're going to use that as the base for our Espagnole sauce. And we have here about a quart of veal stock. We're also going to use a little bit of oil. And we're going to use some mirepoix again. Mirepoix, remember, is carrots, onions, and celery. And we're going to caramelize these in this pan here. When those are done caramelizing, we will add a little bit of tomato paste. And then we'll add a little bit of flour to the oil that's left over. And when we add that flour, it's going to act as a roux to thicken up our veal stock. And while that's happening, we are going to put in a sachet. Let me get this stuff out of the way for you so you can see the sachet. But inside the sachet, there's a little bit of chopped garlic, some peppercorns. I don't know if you can see that up here. A couple of cloves and some parsley stems. That'll season, or that season, it sort of add some background flavors to our sauce as it's making. Caramelize the mirepoix, add the tomato paste, add the flour, add the stock, add the sachet, bring it up to a boil, let it simmer. While it's simmering, I am going to move this pot off to the side so that we get a sort of circulation of our sauce as it simmers. It kind of comes around from the heat, goes up to the top and then down, and you get this circulation. And as you get that circulation, it pushes off some scum, impurities. It's not really, those aren't correct words, but you're going to get a little skin on the top, and we want to skim that skin off. So we will do that. Now, the process is going to take quite a while, close to an hour or so. I'm not going to film the whole thing, but I am going to cut it in so you can see at the end. That will be the Espagnole. That makes half of our Demi Glace. The other half of our Demi Glace is going to be another equal part of veal stock, which I have in the refrigerator, added to that strained Espagnole. That will give us half a gallon. We'll have a quart of Espagnole and a quart of veal stock. We'll have half a gallon. We will then set that off to the side of the pot so we get circulation. Keep skimming it until it reduces down to a quart. That will be Demi Glace, half glaze. Equal parts, 1 quart of Espagnole to 1 part of veal stock. Makes half a gallon. Reduce it by half, Demi glaze. We will end up with 1 quart of Demi Glace. Not a lot of places make this sauce. It's expensive, right? If veal stock costs about 25, 30 bucks a gallon, we're talking about adding stuff to it and then cutting it in half. So we're looking at Demi Glace being at least $60 a gallon. That's a lot. That's a lot for a gallon of sauce. But in your more refined restaurants where you're getting more money for your dishes, they'll use this in the place of beef gravy, so to speak. Uh, Lots of places just use beef gravy. If you go to a place where there's poutine, you're probably not going to get demi glace on your poutine. If you go to a place where there's steak à poivre, you're going to get demi glace on your steak à poivre. So let's get started. And the first thing we're going to start with are mirepoix. Now we have to caramelize these in the oil. So I'm going to put this oil in the pot. Or sautoir. Turn on the fire. And I'm going to let that heat up over sort of medium heat. While that's happening, I want to talk about this mirepoix. We're going to caramelize this mirepoix. The thing that takes the longest to caramelize are the carrots. So we're going to put them in first. The thing that takes the least amount of time to caramelize are the onions. So we're going to put them in last. Which leaves these. They're going to go in the middle. All right? So we're going to caramelize our carrots, and then when they're just, I don't know, 2/3 of the way or so, we'll add our celery. And when it's 2/3 of the way or so, we'll add our onions. All right? Be patient. Waiting for the ripples to show up here. Can feel a little bit of warmth in there, but not a lot. So we'll give it a few seconds. There's a little sizzle there. Not a lot. Not a lot. This is me being impatient. But you can see, maybe hear it. Demi glace is an exercise in patience. This is a sauce that requires you to pay attention to it, and it requires quite a bit of time. Not THYME, not herb time, but time, TIME, to do. You need to clean the sauce, is what people call it. Remember, I mentioned we get that circulation going, and it's putting up that skin. You need to get rid of that skin and keep cleaning your sauce. It's something you have to pay attention to. You can't just put this in and hope the gods take care of it, because that won't happen. Your mirepoix will burn instead of caramelizing. Your sauce will burn, and you'll lose your job because it's expensive. So pay attention to what you're doing when you make demi glace. All right, we're starting to get some good color on there. Let me hold it up so you can kind of see it. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Get some caramelization in there, nice dark brown color. And you can see that there's still some oil left in there. That's fine. That's what we're going to add our flour to make our roux. But I'm going to put a little bit of tomato paste in here. Not a lot, not a lot. I don't want this to be a tomato sauce. So maybe a couple of teaspoons, right? You can probably hear that in there. I'm going to fry that around. Let that cook. That is looking beautiful in there. Now, I'm gonna add the flour in to make the roux, and I'm gonna cook this roux a little bit too. I don't want a blonde roux. I want it to be a little bit closer to brown, but not necessarily dark brown like a gumbo. All right. I'm gonna get a little bit more color to the roux, which also adds to the flavor, to deepening the flavor a little bit. Right, gives it a little more toasty, roasty. There we go. There we go. So I'm gonna let this go for a few minutes here. Maybe a little more flour there, huh? What do you think? I think so. Like this a little bit tighter. There we go. I like it. I'm going to add a little bit of this at a time to sort of get that roux up and moving around, and then I'm going to dump the rest of it in. It's not something that has to be added slowly or carefully. I just want to make sure that I get all that roux picked up before I start dumping everything in. So this will take a few seconds, but not a lot. And this is going to start to get thick, sort of like mashed potatoes, just because I have way more roux in there than is needed for that liquid. But I really like the dark brown color that we're getting here. I'm liking it, and you can see that it's gotten thick. Right as it starts to boil, it's come up. It's gotten really thick. So I feel good about adding the rest of the veal stock in. Like I said, that's about a quart of veal stock there. And I have about a quarter cup of roux. So that should cook it to, or thicken it, I apologize, thicken it rather, to a medium consistency. I'm going to let this come up to a boil. Then I'm going to reduce it down to a simmer, put the sachet in it. And after I put the sachet in, I'll let it simmer for. Okay, it's starting to come up to a boil now, and I can see that even the scum, the skim that we're talking about is starting to form already. Let me see if I can get that to you. Can you see where it's lighter in here? That is that skin that is starting. It's coming up to a boil. I'm going to reduce it down to a simmer. Move it off to the side. And what's going to happen is this light stuff that you're seeing here is going to start being pushed that way by the simmering liquid here that's over the flame. You can see it's already starting to go and collect over here. Let me put my sachet in. I have a really long string so I can tie it to the handle. Not that it's going to get lost in this little itty bitty pot. But when you're making a lot of this, it may. So I'm going to set that there. And then occasionally, I am going to come by with this and just skim that off of the sauce. That is what is referred to as cleaning my sauce. And I'll put it in this little container and it'll just go in the garbage. Places that you may work may not have you do that. Okay, it's a fairly refined practice, and a lot of places don't do it, but the more refined places that you work will have you make sure you clean your sauce. The less refined places, when you say clean your sauce, they won't have any idea what you're talking about. So this is going to go for a while. I'm going to cut the video here. There's no sense in watching this simmer for an hour and a half while I skim the scum with a skimmer. So we're going to let this go, and then we'll come back and talk about turning it into Demi Glace. Right now, we are finishing the first part of Demi Glace. We're making an Espagnole. You need that to make the Demi Glace. So, be back in a bit. Okay, so it's been a little over an hour. Our sauce is down to its last little skim here, and then I'm going to strain it through here and add the veal stock. So let's get this last little bit off of here. You can see here all of the stuff that we've been skimming off, a lot of fat. Well, not a lot, not a lot, but it's fat and a little bit of flour and some other stuff. And I'm going to take the sachet out, and I am going to strain this through 2 strainers. Where's my spoon? Where to put it? Oh, here we go. Squeeze the rest of that out of there. I'm gonna get as much out of there as I can. All right, remember, a lot of time, a lot of money. Don't waste it. There's our vegetables. A little bit of sauce. That out of the way. And then here we have our Espagnole. I'm going to add more veal stock to it. I'm going to use a clean spoon. See if I can do this without splashing it all over myself. Okay, our veal stock is in our demi glace. Our veal stock is in our Espagnole. We have about half a gallon of liquid here. And I'm going to put it on the fire. And I'm going to reduce it by half so that we'll end up with 1 quart. Remember, demi glace, half glaze. Now you'll notice I haven't seasoned it or tasted it or anything like that, because demi glace is it's where I want to end right? I don't want it to be committed to anything because it's going to be something that I build other sauces out of. So this is going to go for a little while here. I'm going to push it off to the side after it comes up to a boil and skim it just like I did with the Espagnole. It'll take another hour or 2 hours or so, right? A nice low simmer to get that cleaned up, and it'll be Demi Glace. So we'll come back in a little bit. So the Demi Glace has started, and I want to show you a little bit of what's happening in here. You can see that it's been pushed off to the side. We're getting that circulation that's pushing the impurities. I really don't know what to call it other than that. It's not really impurities, right? You can do this without taking away this scum that I'm calling it, but by taking away this flotsam and jetsam that that the sauce is putting up, I'm making my demi-glace much cleaner. It's going to be less cloudy looking and shinier. Maybe shiny is the word I'm looking for. Shiny and new as opposed to dull and cloudy. I don't know that those are accurate or really great ways of describing it, but that's what I got so far. That's what I've had my whole life, really. I don't have the language to explain what I'm trying to say, but you'll have to see it. You'll have to see it. So, as you can see at the top, I'm getting some of this cloudiness to go away, and I've started skimming a little bit of it off, and I'm getting a good bit of it right now. So I'm gonna come and get that big chunk, right? You see that? That stuff is sticky, man. It's sticky. High protein. When you put this sauce in your mouth, when you eat it, it coats everything in your mouth. It's thick and rich and deep flavored, and it's not like a flavor explosion. It's more like you know how lava comes out of a volcano and just kind of covers everything. That's what this sauce does. It just it's a satisfying bite of food. So I'm going to keep doing this. It is it's been on, I don't know, half hour or so. It's going to be on for another hour. I will keep skimming it and getting the scum off the top, and I'll come back to you in about an hour. So it's been a little over an hour now, and I think we're at about our last time to skim this before we move it over to this smaller pot. I want to get it out of the pot that's so wide and deep and into one that's a little more narrow and a little shorter. Get the cleaning process a little more concentrated. So I'm going to skim this one last time and then strain it, and then we'll let it go. We're a little more than halfway done, I think. It's looking really thick with 3 C's. It's nice. It looks nice. All right, so take this. If I can do this without burning myself. Strain it through both strainers. We might be a little closer to being done than I originally thought. Let's get this. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll give it another 15, 20 minutes. Tops 20 minutes, I think. Then we'll come back to it. And when we come back to it, I'll strain it one last time and cool it down. We're almost there. Demi Glace is about done. It is been reducing. Time has passed. We've got our last skim here. Like I said, this is getting pretty sticky. I'm going to turn this fire off because it's also pretty warm. Let me get this last little bit off of here. And, I don't know. You can tell. Probably not. But it is definitely thicker than it was. And it's down to about a quart, maybe even a little bit less. I may have let this go a little too far. In my effort to get it really strong, I probably should have pulled it off, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so ago. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. What I'm going to do now, I have this little pan of ice. I'm going to set this pan on top of it. This will help to cool my sauce down quickly. Get it out of the danger zone. Again, my double strainer. And in it goes. See, even after all that skimming the scum, still got a little bit in there. I'm going to let that cool down for the next, I don't know. Probably won't take too long. It's not very deep. It's fairly shallow in there. Probably 5 minutes or so, and I'll give it a stir every now and then with my my spatula. And when this gets cooled down, I'll come back to you and show you what we got. And then we'll put it away, and we'll use it for our steak au poivre. So we started with veal stock, half gallon of veal stock. We turned half of it into Espagnole. We left the other half as veal stock. When the Espagnole was done, we had a quart of Espagnole and a quart of veal stock. We put those together. We reduced them by half. That gave us our Demi Glace, half glaze, which is right here. Like I said, it is a refined sauce that you won't find it in most places unless you pay for it because it's expensive, but it's worth it. You know, I don't think we need to come back. This is going to cool down. I can't imagine how exciting that's going to be. So, Demi Glace, Espagnole, equal parts Espagnole, and veal stock reduced by half glaze. Demi Glace.